Okay. Really, just the initial question that I have is back in 2013, when y'all did vote on this complex being built, why did you decide to vote for it?
I think it was a number of different issues. So there isn't any one particular, driver that kind of helped me formulate my answer. One thing that you have to kind of keep in mind with this particular issue is that it impacts me probably more than anyone else I was sitting on, because I actually live right here in the same neighborhood and have lived here for well over 20-something years, if not more. The issue itself had multiple facets. One, it was a property rights issue where you had a family that has owned that property for, number of decades, if not generations, and had come to a decision that within the family they wanted to sell their property and to develop that property. So you kind of run into a property rights issue of, do they have the right to do what they will, and is it already zoned for what they're wanting to pursue? The other issue that kind of came about, I'll reference two more to try to, tighten up my response. The other issues that we had to think about was that they were coming to us in good faith saying, we have these intentions and we would like to work with the city to make sure that there's a win-win. So what they were pursuing was a planned development district. And so it's a negotiation where they're allowed to move forward with their plans, and at the same time we get to have some say in what the city would receive. And probably one of the biggest benefits that we received from moving forward with this plan was a significant amount of acreage of riverfront parkland that the city would receive for free at absolutely no cost to the citizens. Mm-hmm. Another issue that kind of developed within that, both of those property rights versus, free parkland, is that the property itself, as much as folks were wanting the city to go and buy it, it wasn't for sale. Mm-hmm. They weren't coming to the city saying, hey, we'd like for you to buy this property from us. They actually already had a buyer. And so I think that kind of the scenario that went through my mind is, if I were in a similar situation where I had property and I had come to a decision of wanting to, let's just say, sell my home, I've got a buyer. Somebody wants to buy my house.
Yes.
Great. Let's get this resolved. And suddenly the government comes in and says, whoa. No. We're not going to allow you to sell your property. It's like, well, wait a second. This is mine. I can choose to sell it if I so choose, and I have somebody that wants to buy it, and they're ready to do so. Well, okay, how about you and I? We discuss how we can make this be of benefit to both the city and to the person that's buying it. And I'm able to fulfill, that transaction. So those are some of the things I'm also thinking about in there as well. The other bigger piece of it, though, was that the property owners had every right, if we stood in their way, to sue us. And so that's another thing that we had to kind of keep in mind is, if we were to deny the process in which the Thornton family was pursuing, would they have a right to come back and sue the city? And then what is the likelihood that the city of San Marcos and its taxpayers would have of being able to be successful in that lawsuit? And when we spoke with our legal counsel, our city attorney, and asked, hey, what's the precedent set? What is the likelihood of us being sued? And if we were to go ahead and pursue a lawsuit and participate in a lawsuit, what's our likelihood of being successful or having to pay out a settlement? The response was that the likelihood is that we would not be successful and that they were in their rights to go ahead and move forward. And so in my mind, and in that of the majority of the council, we felt that what was in the best interest of the community was to try to work with the family, the Thornton family, the development organization, with our staff to try to find a mutual agreement where we would have an understanding of where they would be allowed to develop in proximity to the river, what the design standards would be for that, how they would mitigate, rainwater, how they would capture, water that was coming off of their property, how they were going to go about engineering, and these aren't just city regulations. They still have to fulfill all of the state and federal regulations as well because of the proximity to the river. And they were willing to do that, to go above and beyond what our usual regulations are going to be. And in addition to that, still providing us with a significant amount of immediate riverfront acreage that we wouldn't be able to purchase otherwise. They were going to give it to us for free. Yes. In addition to the free parkland, though, they also gave us the first right of refusal for additional property that's on the I guess what would be the southern portion of the property that's owned by the holding group. And so those are the big, kind of trying to reflect back upon the discussions and the issues back then. Those are some of the major issues that I have to think about. Property rights issues. Do they have the right to go ahead and move forward? Are they being, reasonable in approaching us and saying, hey, how can we find a mutual agreement, mutual cooperation to try to get something done? What's the likelihood of a lawsuit? What's our likelihood of success in a lawsuit? And is this something we can even afford? And what do we receive in return? So those are all the things that I had to think about, and honestly made my decision while I was sitting up there and decided I'm going to go ahead and move forward with approving this. At least my vote was to approve, knowing that these were all the different areas of consideration that I had to review. And again, also recognizing that I live in this neighborhood and would be living here throughout the development process itself. And so those are all the different things that kind of went through my head. I can't speak on behalf of my colleagues and what was going through their head at the time or through their heart, but in the end had to kind of look at the facts. And I remember there was a moment where I was sitting there where I literally, as an individual, had to withdraw emotion and simply look at what was before me, what were the leadership decisions that had to be made, the critical decisions that had to be made, and to be able to go ahead and move forward with either a yes or no vote. Because it's never just as simple as yay or nay. There's a multitude of different issues, perspectives, degrees of thought that you have to go through and to find a level of comfort to be willing to go eventually make that yay or nay vote. But if nothing's ever just black and white.
Definitely.
I know it's a long-winded answer. I wish the decisions that we made could be as simple as a one-line talking point. Right. But anytime we're making decisions, especially decisions like this, they're critical. They are thought-provoking. They take time, and you want to hear from as many people as possible in making your decision. But in the end, you have to make a decision. And because we serve as a council, it's the majority of the council that's going to make that final decision.
Definitely. That was, yes, definitely a long-winded answer.
And and I'm probably missing some pieces to the puzzle. I mean, I kind of tried to, if you want to refer to that as simplifying it, but there's a lot more that went into it. It's a property rights issue. It was an issue of how can we work collectively and collaboratively to make sure that we're giving the family an opportunity to do with their property what they would like, and also give an expectation, to set a standard and expectation of, look, if your choice, by law, you have this opportunity to do so. If you want to move forward on development, this is what we're going to allow, and only this. No, there was our reinforcement was that this is what we will allow at most, but in return for that, we want to make sure that we can preserve everything that's along the river, and not only will we preserve it as parkland, city parkland, but it will remain in the hands of the public, and the public will have access to the river. The public will have access to that land, and we will have an opportunity eventually to purchase additional land that would be for sale, because that land right there was not for sale. What's another thing that I'd really like to kind of touch on as well? And I think there was an argument made throughout the discussions of individuals that would say, hey, I spent time there at Capes Camp. I've been there. I swim there. I do this there. I do that there. And the family came forward in public and saying, you know what? those of you that have been here, that have, recreated here, we've never said anything, but the truth is that they were trespassing. And if anything had ever happened, if somebody were to get hurt, if somebody were to damage property, the Thornton family would have been liable. Not the person that was there trespassing,
right?
But the family that owns the property. And so now it really opens it up to where, look, we now have parkland that will be maintained by the city, actually, and through the PDD, through some additional support from the developers as well, in putting trails, making sure that we have trash receptacles, making sure that we're keeping that area clean and keeping it in a manner where other people can enjoy it as well. And that hasn't been the case for generations. It's always been under private property with a fence, with an understanding that that's theirs. But I mean, I know that I've walked by before and have seen where folks have gone around the fence or hopped the fence or what have you. And so that's another thing that we have to kind of keep in mind as well.
Wow, yeah, this is a completely different perspective on the whole situation.
Yeah, I wish I could say it's black and white, but it's not.
Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. And you know what? I really want to thank you as well for calling Trey, calling Jamie, getting their perspective. These are thoughts that go through each of our minds. Me living right here, there was a lot of emotion that was pulling at me and tugging at me. My family was here during the floods of 1998. And I didn't have a cell phone at the time, didn't have a pager, obviously didn't have social media or Facebook. So, to have to go through and to try to find them and eventually getting a call when they were, from where they had been, taken during the floods was difficult. But at the same time, it's kind of a sense of, I've got to be respectful of all these different things, of property rights, of my neighbors, of making sure that, folks abide by. Again, it's not just the municipal ordinance, but the developer still has to abide by federal regulations when you're in proximity of a waterway, state regulations. So there's a whole bunch of different hoops, expectations, criteria, regulations, laws that have to be abided by and are monitored regularly before they even get to us. So, anything else I can help you with?
Really, the only other thing that I was questioning was, I think you're aware that there was a petition created online, and that's how this whole situation was brought to my attention, was that petition.
The best person to talk to about that petition really is Jamie Lee.
Yeah, she explained it to me, that it's a straw poll petition, that it doesn't really follow the guidelines of the charter of the city. Correct.
And those are, the charter itself is the constitution of the city, which is which was drafted, determined, amended, and I think we just recently amended it during our election in 2013. But it's done so by the citizens. It's not something that the city council can just go in and say, hey, we're going to change this. No, any adjustments to the charter have to be approved by the community, and so that's what guides and regulates that petition process. Okay.
So are you able to comment on the petition itself?
I haven't seen it. I don't know anything more than what you've shared or what Jamie Lee has shared. So I really, at this point, I don't really have any immediate comments on the petition itself.
Okay. Well, hey, that's all I really have for you.
Great. Well, I appreciate your call, and I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate your editor as well saying, don't call that number. And it's not necessarily don't call it because I don't want you to call it. It's I'd rather that you call either Jamie Lee or Trey so that they can save you time by getting you in front of the right person.
Definitely, and that's what she conveyed to me, is like, you want to go through the proper channels here to get a hold of these people.
And it's not a sense of, hey, we're trying to keep something from you, or I don't want to be bothered, as much as we know you're working on a deadline, and if you describe what it is that you're wanting for us, we'll get you in front of the right person. Otherwise, if you call me, I might be like, hey, Houston, I appreciate your call, but I'm going to have to call you back because either I'm at work, I'm stuck in traffic, I'm in a meeting, or I don't have an answer to your question. I'm going to have to call Tom Taggart, Rodney Cobb, Les Stevens, Chase Stapp, Ken Bell, Jared Miller to get an answer so that I can call you back. When, in essence, you can call Jamie Lee or Trey, and they can just say, yeah, let me connect you with Ken Bell. Let me connect you with Matthew Lewis. Let me connect you with whomever, Rodney Cobb, and they can answer your question directly.
All right. Okay.
Cool, man. Hey, I hope you have a great weekend.
Hey, you too. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye-bye.